In just 14 days, I'll ride 8,000 kilometres, crossing extremely remote deserts, climbing 500 million-year-old mountain ranges, tackling unforgiving croc-infested tropics, all with no accommodation, no support vehicle, just one man and one machine versus the Outback. This is the ultimate test of endurance, survival and adventure. Join me on this epic, fast-paced journey as we explore the wild and untamed beauty of Australia's Outback. The video will show you the entire trip from start to finish, the good and the bad. For those of you that have followed along on previous episodes, make sure you stick around for the whole video because there's a heap of unseen footage and insight that wasn't included in those videos. And the completely unseen trip north of the Simpson Desert into the Gulf and Cape York, where I really meet some struggles and I'm forced to make some big decisions. I started my trip with a 4.5 hour ride from Melbourne to the Little Desert on the border of Victoria and South Oz. Unfortunately, I entered the desert later than I would have liked and was immediately faced with the challenge of deep sand. First crash in the sand. First of many to come. Morning. The sun was out, but it should be a good day. Just going to pack up now and get everything together, and already done a bit of work on the bike, played around with the suspension, preload, fixed up a few rattles. Probably heard on my bike yesterday I had a rattle, ended up being in the windscreen, but nice little spot. After packing up camp, the next stop was to grab some fuel and water for the crossing. And barely 100 metres out of my campsite and I'm down again in the exact same spot I dropped it last night. That's the spot! The riding through the Little Desert was always a bit of an unknown. All I knew is I wanted to cross the entire desert east to west and finish in South Australia. By the time I'd filled up fuel and water and re-entered the desert, I'd only left myself 4.5 hours of sunlight. Come on, KLR. You got this. We're getting this. Yes, come on. I had my fair share of battle zone to ride the big heavy KLR through the deep sand of the desert, all while carrying a lot of extra fuel and water, with the aim of getting some practice at the same weight the bike will be for my Simpson crossing a bit later in the trip. I put the KLR down into the sand a lot of times throughout what was an extremely hard day in the desert, pushing myself to my absolute limits. I race the setting sun and I just make it out in the daylight, feeling completely physically and mentally exhausted. Fuel up with what I've got, and I'm going to clean and lube this chain now too. Alright, I'm repacked. Pit stop took a bit longer than I wanted, but I'm very happy that KLR got a bit of TLC before we get back on the road here. Let's get into South Australia. 44 minutes to border town. Ooh, the body is so sore. That's one of the toughest rides I've ever done. I pushed through for another hour on the bike, stopping at a truck stop in Bordertown, and down an entire family-sized pepperoni pizza before heading to my second night's camp at a place called Pooch's Swamp. This is it, Pooch's Swamp. This is the campsite. Beautiful. Morning from Pooch's Swamp, South Australia. Managed to get the KLR to the car wash last night and get most of the sand off there, but there's still a bit of remnants. Get back on the road today, head up Flinders Ranges, try and get to the Paratuna pub. Probably not going to make my lunch booking, but we'll see if we can get there for dinner. Good setup on the bike today. I'm glad because we've got a big road ride, but This is the comfiest and the most solid my luggage has been the whole time. So pretty fired up for that. Body's feeling not too bad. Ankle was pretty sore last night. Took a few painkillers. She's running good again now. It's time to really hit some Ks. Back on the Dukes Highway. Got the throttle lock cranking. Oh, how good is this? The Mighty Murray. It's huge up here. What a weird joint. Graffiti rocks. Beautiful old towns, but they're so empty. They're like ghost towns. I know it's Sunday Arvo, but I really need to crunch some kilometres into the night to stay on track for my 7 p.m. booking at the famous Parachilna pub. So I decided it's a good idea to carry some extra fuel in case I can't get any around the Flinders Ranges later on. As I fill up my Desert Fox fuel bladders with fuel, I notice they're both leaking. My only option is to buy a large plastic jerry can and transfer the petrol into it. I'd like you to meet Big Red, a worthy pillion and trusted new friend who will now need to be aboard for the rest of my trip up north. The plan since the start of my trip was to stop at the iconic Prairie Hotel in Parachilna and check out their roadkill menu on my way through. Having not eaten anything decent so far in this trip, I was really looking forward to a good feed. Unfortunately, I've burned a lot of time filling up and tying down Big Red. I'm now going to have to absolutely charge it non-stop through the south of the Flinders Ranges if I'm going to make my booking. Rolled in pretty late last night, tried to get to the Prairie Hotel. Rolled in, I was 7 minutes late after flogging it for so many hours, and they were shutting the doors with the close sign. Gutted. So I've headed down to the gorge here in Parachilna. Campsite was super busy when I rolled in, but what an epic spot to wake up. This is where we're at. This is where we're at with Big Red. Welcome to the rig, Big Red. It's added some real top-heavy game to my bike, which is gonna suck in the desert, but not too far from the gorge is our first stop at Angora China Village for some petrol and supplies. It's a funny old place, this little village. The guy that owns it's he's a real nice guy, but he's got a funny sign on his gate to the joint. It says no yuppies. Interesting one, because when we come and stayed here last year, we actually three of us flew a chopper in, landed it out the front of his joint. Don't know what's more yuppie than bloody flying a chopper and landing at your caravan park for accommodation. But he let us in. Have a look at this joint. Luckily I was allowed to buy petrol. They must have forgotten to run the yuppie test on me. I decided it was a good idea to fill Big Red just a little bit, as I didn't have a defined route out with fuel stops mapped. Which means for the time being, I'm heavily loaded again. Be good to see all the stuff I missed riding in yesterday in the dark. Such a shame. Only reason I rushed so hard is because the pub's shut now till I think Wednesday or something, so my only chance there was if I got there before Sunday close, and I was 7 minutes late for my booking and they shut it on me. Gotta love it. Hook on? With the weight of the bike terribly top heavy, I still cannot resist the first unknown hill climb I come across. Well, we're here. Let's give it a shot. It's been a while. That was tough actually. It was worth it. I've just got, this bike is so top heavy with this thing on it. Oh, that really got the blood flowing. All this extra fuel makes for the absolute most shocking handling. Just, this is idiotic weight for this sort of riding. It just makes it such an added wrestle. But anyway, good challenge. Nice. So many good campsites here. Absolutely beautiful. Having missed out on dinner and no decent food available this morning at Angora, China, I'm hanging out for a good feed. The historic Farina Underground Bakery is not too far away. Lee Creek, Farina Bakery, please be open. It's the most epic bakery. Farina. Oh yeah, they have the ruins too, they're cool. Thankfully the bakery is open and I stopped for a quick bite to eat. There's a nice little stop off. That's probably the third or fourth bakery I've stopped at on this trip so far, and that was the best sausage roll I've had yet. Good little bakery. With one last stop at Murray, I stock up on some locally made jerky and petrol and head on towards the iconic Oodnadatta track. This is it, Oodnadatta track. It begins. William Creek, 200 k's. This is the stuff that puts your bike through the ringer. This little salt flat. The old Gann Bridge. This stretch of track is long, mostly straight and very corrugated. But overall, it's in decent nick and I'm grateful for that. And barely any traffic coming either way. It's a big wide road, this one. Plenty of room. There's Planehenge. Personally not a fan of it, so I won't be stopping. I've seen it before, but basically it's junker, Outback junk. Bit of Outback junk. I like the grenade, that's cool. Where are they bringing the concrete trucks from? Must be mixing it on site. After a quick top up at William Creek, it's time to start thinking about a campsite for the night. Every day we're racing the sun. Every day so far we've lost. Is today going to be the day we get one on the board? Be nice. So we've got 19 minutes to the spot. Easy half an hour to an hour left of good light. I managed to find epic spot in a dry riverbed, and it seems the first time on the trip I'm able to set up in the daylight and really enjoy this beautiful spot. Bit bogged. Up early and I dig the KLR out of the bog and get back on the road. Oh good, you have to slow down for the river crossing. Whoa, that was fucking deep as. Oh, I'm completely covered head to toe. Instantly cold. Pink Roadhouse. Caravan School. The iconic Pink Roadhouse is a great stop. I get fuel, good feed, decent coffee, and have a good chat to some caravanning legends. It's now onto the Mount Dare track, heading towards the Mount Dare Hotel for my last fuel stop before the Simpson crossing.
There's some big sandy sections on this Mount Dare track. I'm almost tempted to even drop a couple more PSI. Some of them are proper sand. But just nearly hit the biggest goanna. It was huge. It's like a Komodo dragon. He just was sitting in here. Started running when I got near him, and then I nearly went off the track at the corner. Silly bugger just started running at me. These ruts are annoying.
The condition of the Mount Dare track is heavily corrugated and sandy, putting a lot of stress on the KLR. All I can think about is, will she hold together for me?
This is tiring riding this track. Finding myself getting pretty worn down by it. So this last little bit's been pretty tough, unexpectedly tough. I don't know how long it's going to take me to get up to the Mount Dare, but I've no way of gauging by just looking at the maps what the train's going to be like. So anyway, really fatiguing. In between my shoulder blades just gets to a point where I'm unable to keep going. I have to stop, have a stretch. I don't want to fully burn it out to the day before I get into the desert. So, but anyway, get a snack, get back on the road and slog this last little bit out. Cool. Bucket. Whoa, dude. That was so deep. Oh yeah. Bit of a cliff. Cool. Alright, I'm out of here. I enjoyed it. Didn't enjoy the rocks. Bloody hell. Tyre poppers.
After a full day of riding, I arrive at Dalhousie Springs and decide to camp here. I go for a dip in the 35-degree hot springs to wash off the 5 days of filth I've gathered. So and I head back to camp for the Jet Boil barbecue and grill.
Cool,
Barbecue pack. Looking at the grill.
Goodbye Dalhousie Springs. Dalhousie, not a great place to camp. We're getting absolutely hounded by the dingoes. Getting into my panniers, sniffing the sides of my tent, and I'd chase him off, and then he just do a loop, come straight back. He was so annoying. He was such a raggedy, scungy looking grey thing. He was so gross. He was like a wolf. Didn't really want to get in a fight with him. Oh shit. Oh. Fuck yeah. That was a big stack. Oh. Oh. Twisted my ankle so bad, Dan. That is my first crash in South Australia. Look at this rut. I was hooking here and I had to get across this. I don't know what it looks like on the camera, but dropped into this rut and then it looks like I've run along that and sort of high-sided here, yeah. Oh. And then boom. They're the ones that can really mess you up too.
After the adrenaline of this morning's stack wears off,
ruts.
I've realised I've quite badly injured my knee and ankle. It takes a bit of time for me to get my head around taking this injury into the Simpson desert later today.
But I've mentally moved on. and I've physically moved on. I've moved on to a new era of what my body's capable of. Just a slightly bit less. Still enough. Still plenty to get me there. And to still enjoy it. Going around this thing. And I'm gonna go slow. Bit of water in there. Alright, I'm fully back. Morale is complete high again. Look at this place. I'm pumped. I'm pumped again. Today's the day. We're going in. Track's getting tough up here. Very corrugated and very sandy.
I've made it to my final stop, the Mount Dare Hotel, where I fill up with a slightly expensive tank of juice. Staff here are really helpful, and as they are responsible for recovering stranded adventurers like me and the Simpson, they don't hold back in warning me that the tracks ahead may be impassable and that I might not even be able to cross the flooded Air Creek. I set off anyway. I'm determined to cross this desert and I love a challenge.
This is tough, man. Oh, this is tough. The game has changed.
Only minutes into the ride and the water damage to the Mount Dare road gives signs of what might be ahead of me.
Well, that's soft. The softies. Get up, get up. Ah. Hello. What are you doing? You circling me? Hey? Where'd you come from? Yeah, he's coming. He's just waiting for me to crash again and then he can just eat my carcass. Oh, what is this shit, man? Dead set? Here he comes. He knew I'd get stuck here. I think I've got to go through. That's the only way. Then where do we go? Oh, basically bogged. Full bogged. Hello, mate. You want to help? I'm bogged. Can you give me a hand?
With the dingo by my side, I take a bad line through this swampy detour and end up pretty badly bogged. After seriously wrestling this thing in some knee-deep mud, I managed to move her ever so slightly, but I don't think the dingo is as excited as I am.
I moved, brother. Nearly there, huh? The adventure tire's not loving it. Have a look. Cannot even stand in there.
By this stage I'd overheated the KLR and it was hissing out coolant. Not a great start to my Simpson desert crossing. Eventually I managed to pull the KLR out of the bog and I'm finally back on the Mount Dare road.
Look at that. See if we can vibrate a bit out and then stop, and I'll probably do a full chain clean. I think it's a long way to go.
My journey through the desert was met with many challenges. Quite early on I punctured my main water bladder, which adds time pressure to the crossing. And my pillion passenger Big Red also proved to be a bit of a challenge for the handling of the bike in the sand. I had a scary moment when my leg was pinned to a bank rotated 180 degrees backwards. I was unable to lift the bike or move. After about 5 or 10 minutes of extreme pain, I somehow managed to slip my foot out of my tightly secured Alpine Stars Tech 7 motocross boot.
Let's have a look at the direction my boot was pinned. This is as is. That's how it was pinned. Oh man.
To prevent this from happening again in the future, I loosened all my straps on both boots. On day 3, I finally finished the French line and I head onto the K1 and QAA lines, which lead to my next challenge, the Air Creek crossing.
Oh my god.
The height of the Air Creek was definitely borderline, but I was a long way past the point of no return and I knew my only hope was to take all my gear off the KLR and try to push it through. It's my last day in the desert and I have to climb what's remaining of the dunes. These are the biggest dunes so far and end with the largest dune in the entire desert, Big Red.
Oh, this one's huge. No hope.
After a dismal effort climbing Big Red twice, I celebrate the successful crossing at the Birdsville bakery with a delicious curry camel pie.
Can I have a curry camel and a snag roll, please? Yep. Sauce with butter? Yep.
Finally coming into phone reception and seeing what's on the weather forecast, I decide it's now or never to head to Cape York before the rains come. This means I'll have to take the less travelled route up the Gulf Coast side of the peninsula. Although there is very little information available about the route, I do know that towns along the Gulf are extremely sparse and most don't have any fuel. Large areas are also uncampable due to First Nations peoples areas and cattle stations that cover a lot of the coastal region. As I head north, floodwaters are everywhere and the bird life around the Bedourie area is mind-blowing.
What a place. So many birds in there. That's actually Birdsville. How cool. What even is this joint? It's the floodplain. Birds are loving this joint.
Tens of thousands of large birds, including many birds of prey such as eagles, falcons, hawks, and they're just everywhere. Barely anyone out here, no cars on the road, no houses. It starts to dawn on me I'm really in the absolute middle of nowhere.
Coffee time. Whew. It's cold out here. Back to the road kit, got road jacket, jeans, big gloves. We're going into comfort mode for a while. Crack into some kilometres.
Back on the road and I make my way north all the way to Mount Isa, where I use the local laundromat to clean some of my scungy clothes. I head not too far out of town onto a little river spot on a gated cattle station where camping is permitted.
Let's go down and see if we can spot any crocs. Can't see any.
Even though there's only freshwater crocs in here, I'm more than happy to still set up a safe distance from the river. With no one around, it was just me, the crocs and Big Red on our last stop before we head deep into Gulf country towards Cape York.
Flinders River. Any water? Nothing. Oh yeah, there's a bit up there. A little bit at each end.
After a big day of riding, I passed through Normanton, the last town in the Gulf before Cape York. And upon leaving, I realised it was over 600 kilometres to the next fuel stop, which meant I had to turn around and go back and fill up Big Red, costing me an hour of daylight.
Take two. Nervous about this the first time. Now we've got multiple hours of night riding. Sometimes you gotta just go for it though.
By now it was late in the afternoon and it was looking like I had a big night of riding ahead of me, with several hundred kilometres of no camp zones along this croc-infested, swampy Gulf Coast. The road quickly turns to gravel and deteriorates, and every time I cross over a cattle grid, there are signs about a 1-year imprisonment for camping.
Full-blown night riding again.
Do my best to dodge hundreds of these small little kangaroos that seem oblivious to my presence no matter what speed I'm travelling. Sadly, I hit one head on.
Hit one of the paddy melon kangaroo things.
As I turn around to go back and check on him, I have no option but to put the poor mangled little animal out of his misery, adding to my current downtrending mental state.
There he is. Poor little fucking thing. Not a good headspace.
I keep on riding into the night where things continue to get worse for me. My GoPro batteries are all dead. I'm in such a hurry and panic, I can't even waste a minute to stuff around charging them. Exhausted in the middle of a dangerous and such inhospitable place where I don't belong, started to feel the real danger of the Gulf. After the GoPro shut down, ran out of batteries, not long after I hit that poor little wallaby thing. Things started getting pretty bad. I took a wrong turn. Google navigated me up right out to the coast in this little Aboriginal community. Remembering I don't have a huge amount of fuel, just enough to cross through, and I realised I got a bit panicked. Quickly doubled back down. By this time it's like 9 p.m. and I've been riding for 13 hours. I'm in an area where it's strictly no camping in one area with signs everywhere, police signs, and then Aboriginal community signs saying, you know, don't bring in alcohol, don't camp, don't do all these things, this is Aboriginal land. And I'm like, oh. So I finally get back to where I'm meant to go over, the Mitchell River, where my campsite's not far up over the river. And the road just turns into this deep sand. I drop the bike, I have to pick the bike up with the extra fuel, nightmare shit, can't get the thing started again, KLR doesn't want to start, it's like overheated or something, I don't know. Nightmare. Anyway, I had no option, like I couldn't keep riding. So I just like rolled the tent out, had a quick sleep, and but the thing is, the whole reason I wanted to go up the Gulf Way to the tip was because there's rain coming Wednesday, which is tomorrow.
Why I panicked when I got here last night. Have a look at this, and at night I was just like, what is going on? We need to be. So in theory, last night I cross over that and then camp a bit up in this really nice campsite up there, and then there's petrol on the Peninsula Development Road, and then I'm nearly at the tip. But I ended up going all the way out to the Gulf, back, dropped my bike in here, just killed the kangaroo, having a bit of a freaking meltdown, to be honest. It was pretty low point of the trip last night. After having my fill of adventure, I'm pretty satisfied and decide to head straight home directly down the guts. End on a pretty positive note now. Look at this. Don't want to leave, it's so nice. So a real feeling of not wanting to leave. It's so nice here. But I know that all of these tracks, as soon as it rains, especially this one, had big signs on it, impassable when wet, and I could see why. And this isn't the only one. My focus on the way back is mainly on endurance, survival, and getting home safely.
A stop at Burke and Wills on the first night, Blackall on the second night, and Wallanthry on the third night. So last morning, packing up, this is the campsite. Bit of rain coming down. Welcome to Victoria. We made it. We made it to Victoria. So that's a sight for sore eyes. We've made it. The trip's complete. We made it. 2 weeks on the dot. 2 weeks ago I left. Conquered the Little Desert, Flinders Ranges, bit of exploring around the Flinders Ranges. Conquered the Simpson Desert, fully west to east. Went all the way up the Gulf Coast of the Cape York Peninsula as far as we could go to the Mitchell River. What a couple of weeks, really. Arriving home safely into Melbourne, a lot was achieved on the trip. This was the longest solo trip I've ever done. If you want to see the full Simpson crossing in detail, I have a full episode covering that. I'm going to release some more footage of that as well. I also have an episode of the full Little Desert crossing. If you haven't seen that, check it out. I've been busy refreshing and repairing my KLR, and the adventures have just begun. So hit like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the action. Thanks for watching, legends. It's a bit tight, isn't it?